Hi, everyone. I'm Kyle Dyer, and welcome to Colorado Inside Out on this Friday, October 27th. This week brought a message that hate will not win and love will always prevail. So said a spokesperson from Club Q in Colorado Springs when announcing that the bar is going to reopen in a new location with a new name, The Q. We are approaching the month when last year 5 people were killed in a shooting inside that bar, and now another bar and a bowling alley on the other side of the country have been the targets of another shooter, and we are again heartbroken that another community is mourning. As we start off this week's show, I just want to acknowledge the painful memories and feelings that must be brought up down in the Springs and sympathize with all of those in our state who have experienced this kind of violence. Our panel is back this week after last week's show when we had a conversation with Denver Mayor Mike Johnston regarding his first 100 days in office. Welcome to Patty Calhoun, founder and editor of Westward; Krista Kafer, columnist with the Denver Post; Tyrone Glover, civil rights and criminal defense attorney here in Denver; and also Chris Rourke, managing editor at the Denver Business Journal. Since last we were all together at this table, our ballots have arrived at our homes. Governor Polis is really talking up HH and not talking about what a plan B is if it were to fail. And we've also seen a Coloradan admit to trying to delay the clarification of the votes in the 2020 election. It's been a lot going on this week. Certification, not clarification. Patty, there's been a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and there's going to be still more going on up ahead. It's interesting that the ballots and HH, the big debates for this November's ballot, but we're also looking ahead. So we're looking at the presidential primary. You know, a certain person at this table is part of a lawsuit that is challenging Donald Trump being able to be on the presidential primary in Colorado, saying it's a violation of the 14th Amendment. What is also a violation of common sense, it seems to me, is according to the Colorado Sun, great report, that Republican presidential candidates to be on the ballot in Colorado, you know, the Republicans get to approve who's on the ballot, they have to pay $40,000. Now, Trump already has paid $40,000, or you could pay $20,000 and come to the state once, and you also have to agree to talk about how excited you are to be on the Colorado ballot. It's a very strange move by the Colorado Republican Party, which has already made plenty of strange moves. So, but let's go backwards. That's next year. But we're still in 2020, and Jenna Ellis, a former Weld County DA, is the 4th person now to take a plea in the Georgia election denier case that is really going to be fascinating. She has pleaded guilty to 1 felony. You know, she's got to talk. She's got a podcast now. She's definitely still talking. But in court, she said she took the advice of older, more experienced lawyers and blamed it on them. So we'll see what happens to John Eastman next, and Trump. Not a lawyer, but he's sure going to be interesting in the next year.
Mm-hmm. Krista.
So normally I like bagging on the Colorado Republican Party because they're nuts. And this time, though, I'm not sticking up for the $40,000 thing. I just want to say that it used to be that both parties did this. And up until about 10 years ago, it was kind of common. And it is done in other states. Now, I do think it's a bad idea because it looks bad. It looks like you're like shaking down candidates. Like, you want to come here, you got to pay some cash. I think they're doing it now because they can't seem to make money any other way. All of their donors have fallen away. Not all, but quite a few. Simply because they're so fringy that average Republicans want nothing to do with them. There's so much party rebuilding that needs to be done in this state. This is a great time to do it with stupid stuff on the ballot like HH. Prop HH, the biggest tax increase in probably our state's history. Republicans could be gaining ground right now. Instead, they're shaking down candidates and putting out creepy tweets.
Okay. Tyrone.
I'd like to return to Jenna Ellis, our former Weld County prosecutor. If you know anything about federal prosecutions, what you know is that they're not just going after the little fish, they're going after the big fish. And the way that they do that is they go around and they pick off all of the people from the lowest ends of the pyramid and work their way up until eventually that house of cards falls. So seeing all of these folks, you know, starting to plead guilty, I think we're just getting started. And I think what's ultimately going to carry the day in these criminal prosecutions is all the folks that are going to turn. And I think that her allocution during her sentencing is really telling about the way things might go.
Mm-hmm. Chris.
Well, just keying off of what Krista said, if you take those 2 candidates that have paid to be on the ballot out of the mix, it shows that the Colorado GOP has only raised like $27,000. This also comes at a time when they have not said a peep about the state assembly next spring. Those plans have to go into motion and deposits need to be paid, and there hasn't been one word about that. But, other races we're watching is the Denver Public School Board race, and Kwame Spearman came out this week with an endorsement from Lisa Calderon. He's also embraced the endorsement of the teachers union. And that's quite a juxtaposition from the mayor's race. When he ran for mayor, Mike Johnston was viewed as being perhaps more progressive, and Kwame sort of had that moderate appeal to some voters. Now Johnston has come out and supported the candidates that are not being supported by the teachers union. And I see, Spearman trying to position himself as being more progressive on education, while Johnston looks like the reformer. So that's going to be a really interesting race to watch.
Mm-hmm. Just a couple of weeks left. And the HH you mentioned, it was interesting this week, 9 News and Denver Gazette had a debate, and the governor was asked, what do we do if this fails? And then he didn't say, and the Colorado Republicans are out this week saying we need a special session.
I think we are. I mean, because you can't even turn on, I got to confess, I watch dog videos on Facebook, and they all have ads attached to them, and the HH ads are just coming out over and over again. I think the no on HH is really doing a lot of work to get the message out there that this is a big tax increase. I don't know what the polling looks like, but I have a hunch it may be in danger of going down, in which case Polis is going to need a plan B.
Representative Rose Puglisi was a part of that debate that Governor Polis took part in. And she pushed back on him. She says, why not call this special session? Why not hammer it out? Let us come up with a plan. I think that she showed the practical side of why this doesn't work for Coloradans. And really, the special session, he would not commit to it, and he does not have a plan B.
Mm-mm. After we get through November the 7th, Election Day, the 13th will follow, and that is the day the Denver City budget for next year must be passed per the city's charter. And Krista, city council members are, saying they're going to overrule Mayor Johnston because they want more money than what he is offering to them to prevent more people from becoming homeless, which is the, assistance for people with rent problems.
I think it just shows that the honeymoon is probably over. The squabbling has begun between the mayor and the council, even though they're all Democrats. But even in single rule, you're going to have these kinds of squabbles. And I think it's no wonder that Mike, rather than weighing in on that, decided to take a shot at the Republican Party in a tweet against Mike Johnson, the person who was just elected to be Speaker. And I don't think it was a good idea that he did that for a couple of reasons. Mike Johnston is a very nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's a thoughtful guy. He is a person who, not only do I think that that's true about him, but he's also, that's kind of his brand, right? He's not the partisan puncher. And so to put out this tweet that said, I'm Mike Johnston, T's make a difference, I'm not Mike Johnson, who's, put some things that are true. I mean, he was an election denier, and that is a shame. But then he takes a shot at the fact that Mike Johnson's pro-life, and there's a lot of pro-life Denverites. So that, I don't know, it was not the thoughtfulness that I've come to expect from Mike Johnston. I say, rather than going around smacking around Republicans, deal with your own council, and do some things that the city really needs.
Tyrone, they are saying that eviction filings might hit 12,000 by the end of this year, which would be a record for our city.
Right, and therein lies the problem. I think Councilman Cashman put it well, and I'll paraphrase, where he said, we need to shut down the pipeline. It doesn't matter if you're getting folks off the street and into these tiny homes if they can't afford rent to eventually get out of them. And if you have people getting loaded up into this pipeline, 12,000 is the estimate, and it's only going to get worse, it's only going to compound, who are then finding themselves on the street, then suddenly you're in this gridlocked problem. So I agree, we need to address affordable housing as well as homelessness, and it really needs to be a priority in the budget. I understand the budget needs to be balanced, but I think we're just really setting ourselves up for some serious issues going forward if we're not addressing this thing on both ends.
The mayor has said and made good points. Look, we have to have a reserve in the case of an emergency. We have to have a balanced budget. So where else are you going to cut? That's the question. There's this dynamic between the far left and the left, that there's going to be a struggle. It's going to be really interesting to see. And I looked at the letter that Mayor Johnston sent back to council. It was very respectful. You know, he's trying to remain that respectful dialogue. But is this a sign of trouble ahead? It might be.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me disagree with Krista on the tweet. I thought was hilarious that Mike Johnston sent it out. I think he was showing he definitely has plenty of personality. He has been surprisingly aggressive, I think, on a lot of issues in this first 100 days. But for him to point out, yes, that the new Speaker of the House is an election denier, I think that's a good thing for him to do, especially given that Dominion voting systems is based here in Colorado and took horrible hits because of those election deniers. The fact that he's pro-choice, Colorado has set itself up to be a sanctuary for people who are now denied the possibility of having an abortion. That is something that in Denver, people, for the most part, endorse. I don't think it's a problem for him to say, this is what I think. Also, you've seen Mike Johnston really get down and deal with the sweeps. It's something he promised he would do. It's divisive on all sides because it's just so difficult to get people the kind of help they may need but may not know how to get, may not want. We've got a sweep that's going to go on quite close to this studio soon where 50 people will go into housing. He's got to keep finding more housing, but at least he's pushing forward.
It sounds like when we were talking with him last week that December, a lot of places will open up for temporary housing.
Well, he's got 600 units supposedly coming online. He's got 4 of the micro communities started, so he may make it. But we've got to all look at the numbers on how many people stay in housing, how many people are able to move into rental housing afterwards.
Right, right. All right. Also this week, U.S. District Court Judge Daniel Domenico made 2 decisions that block Colorado from enforcing new laws that are tied to free exercise of religion, Tyrone.
To start with the Christian Academy case, you know, this is the universal preschool where if you are getting taxpayer money for reimbursement of tuition for folks to come to your preschool, then you have an obligation not to discriminate against the public. And they challenged that, and Judge Domenico did find that there was potential merit and a likelihood of success, found that they had standing, found that the issue was ripe, and has issued that temporary injunction. There really are kind of 2 places that we're really dealing with. One is hiring, and the other one is actually on whether they're discriminating against some of the preschoolers or the attendees of the academy. The second one really deals with Bella Health. I have the opinion right here as well, and this is also kind of a 2-part one as well. The first piece deals with whether essentially a provider can be sanctioned for prescribing progesterone as the second pill after the an initial abortion pill. But the piece of this one that really, I think, I guess I would say irked me, or I was actually surprised was not addressed more, was the advertising piece. Bringing someone in there, making them think that they're going to get advice around getting an abortion, contraception, sterilization, those types of things, and then not providing those services, not even having those services available, and trying to convince them and bring them over to the more sort of life-affirming side.
In the case of the Chaffee County School, there were no complaints. And the government, the state government, didn't say that there was any kind of violation regarding discrimination. The judge also noted that the governor was kind of flexing and saying, well, the state's going to come in and make sure there is no discrimination. So I found his ruling very interesting, kind of a pushback and a pause button to look at this situation and say, hey, what is going on here? In the case of this abortion reversal pill, I found that it can be 65% effective. Additionally, pro-choice should consider that it is a choice to change your mind. So why do lawmakers want to rule against or prohibit a treatment that has not proven to be detrimental in any way. I looked that up too. Why are we not outlawing vaping or some of the other things that people choose to do that are detrimental to health? This has not had any impact on people's health, and there is some case for efficacy. So it's a choice, and some women do choose to do that. So both these cases, really interesting, a great case of checks and balances.
Okay. Patty.
Or great cases of endless lawsuits and legal bills, because this is not going to be decided. I think Tyrone's point about the advertising is really interesting, because we've seen in the past deceptive kinds of ads about what clinics are offering and what they are not. So this, we haven't heard the last of this, and it's going to certainly continue. The pre-K program is so great. You just hope it works for those kids who need that kind of education. And it's tough to have it getting bogged down here. I don't know how many preschools there are in Chaffee County, but you're thinking it is good to be able to put kids in preschool. Let's hope they're not discriminating against kids who might come in who have two mommies, but we'll find out, because this case isn't over yet.
So I think these are both really solid cases. And if a judge gives an injunction, it means that he or she believes that the case is likely to prevail on behalf of those that have brought the case. I've read through the 45-page decision about Bella Health, because it's the subject of my column this Sunday. And I agree with, I think Tyrone did a good description of it, and Chris, I think, really showed the background that we have a clinic that is offering women a choice. They offer a lot of services, but if you have taken the first of 2 abortion pills and change your mind, within 24 hours you can get progesterone, which is widely given to women who are at risk of miscarriage or early delivery, and to deny women's choice, and then to deny a medical clinic from being able to offer a medical choice, is clearly against the First Amendment's exercise of religion. The law also violates their First Amendment rules, First Amendment rights in terms of communicating what they do. So if you think that aborting a child is part of a comprehensive package, you're free to use the word comprehensive in that way. If you believe that only life-affirming medical care that produces life and helps people, if that's comprehensive, then you can use comprehensive that way. For the government to come in and say, oh no, we're going to define comprehensive and you can't use it, is clearly a violation of the First Amendment. As for the second case, I think there's clear precedence there as well. The government cannot discriminate against faith-based providers that provide a service for which they would otherwise be eligible.
But at the end of the day, if you want the taxpayer, federal, state-funded money coming to your institution, you should not discriminate or violate our anti-discrimination laws.
The state has not said it's been discrimination. And as far as tax money going to this school, Christians pay taxes too. Should their tax money not go to it?
I think, at the end of the day, if there are anti-discrimination laws in your state or across your country, and you want, money from those institutions, then yeah, I think those are the laws. And at the end of the day, you should not run afoul of those laws and also benefit from the public funding.
Almost every car, SUV, and pickup truck for sale in Colorado in less than a decade will be powered by a rechargeable battery. The Air Quality Control Commission has passed a requirement for EVs to make up 82% of dealer lots by 2032. Chris, that's not that far away.
It's not that far away at all. And really, to talk about the law and the rebates and the EVs coming online, I think I want to take it down to a personal level. Look, I wear heels and I drive a truck. I drive a pickup truck. And the reason I drive a pickup truck is because I have a horse that I haul with the pickup truck. I haul hay. I haul firewood. And there's nothing that EVs offer that can do the work that a ranch truck can do. Additionally, I'm not sure that the grid will be able to handle the load of electric cars that are going to come on the market.
Well, the issue of the rebates, and the big ones are gone now, is important because people are not going to be able to afford this. But maybe the prices will be coming down by the time we get to 2032, enough to make it more equitable. But in the meantime, we also have another shortage, which is there are no people who know how to repair these cars, or not that many. And I'll bring a personal issue. I had a niece who was driving across the country in her new used EV, and it broke down at the first stop, and it's going to take months to fix because there are so few people who can repair the cars around the country. So that's another issue, but we've got 9 years to fix it.
If you look at our grid, it's powered, about 76% of it is powered by fossil fuels. So that's natural gas and coal. We actually are more reliant on coal than the national average. So we're already using fossil fuels to generate electricity. So in a sense, your car is like a coal-powered car rather than a gasoline-powered car if you have an EV. Not against EVs, but unless we have nuclear power, we are, which is the only non-fossil fuel power that could really generate fully for a grid, these cars are going to be powered by fossil fuels one way or the other.
I mean, we talked about 12,000 people potentially being evicted next year. We're in the throes of this homelessness crisis. EVs have not even been remotely affordable, even with all of the government subsidies. I don't see how you're going to do this, in 9 years and have affordable EVs. And the repair thing was something I didn't even necessarily think about. Like, how much are repair shops going to charge to fix these, right? Because it's supply and demand. And if there's not much supply, but there's lots of demand, it just, our working folks are just, kind of everyday people going to be able to afford this transition? Or is this just going to sort of be a utopia only for the people who can afford to drive a Tesla or a Ford Lightning?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now it's time for the panel to share what each has seen as a high or a low of the week. Let's start with the low so we can end on the high, Patty.
Well, it's disgraceful that we've had this whole show and never mentioned Taylor Swift. So let me do that now. She will be here maybe Sunday for the Kansas City Chiefs game. So yes, war in the Middle East, homelessness, deaths in Maine, but Taylor Swift is coming, and we will all be reading about it.
I'm going to give it to the GOP in Congress for picking an election denier. I understand Mike Johnson is a good guy. Johnson is a good guy, and otherwise respected and liked. But I'm thinking you had 220 people to choose from, and you picked an election denier. Really? You could have done it a little bit differently.
Tyrone.
The snow. I mean, I love the snow. I love taking my kids sledding in the snow. I love getting up to the mountains. But it always gets so darn cold right around Halloween when I'm having to walk around for hours with my 3 kids just freezing my butt off. So maybe if it could just come a little bit later next year, we don't see this temperature drop, maybe put it like midway through November. But yeah, that's kind of my sad thing for the week.
That's okay. A lot of people feel that way with Halloween.
Well, Krista and I should have checked with each other ahead of time because I picked Congress too, so I will take a different slant on it and I'll bring it back to Colorado. We saw Congressman Ken Buck pretty central in this whole fiasco. It was a fiasco. And it started out with, we're getting rid of Kevin McCarthy because of spending. We need to stop this spending. Then it migrated to, I will not support an election denier, to, as Krista pointed out, now an election denier has been elected.
All right, let's end with something positive. Patty.
I want to take a minute to remember Steve Sander. He was Denver's first marketing officer, a marketing mensch, just a great guy who gave us B-cycles, so many things around town. He took his own life, and his family wanted people to know that because, first of all, they want people to know you can go out and get mental health if you need it. So Steve Sander, who always gave great positive messages, actually, there's a positive message there too. At his memorial, everyone was greeting each other, remembering how he always ended every conversation with "love ya," and everyone believed it.
And you wrote a really loving article in Westword about his life and impact.
And people sent in great comments about Steve Sander. So think about him. He loved this city. He made it better.
I want to give thumbs up to the snow. And to Mother Nature in general, because I just read that the Colorado River Basin, thanks to last year's heavy snow, hasn't rectified the situation by any means. But Lake Mead and Lake Powell are not, I mean, they're still in the red, but it's not as bad as we thought it could be. Thanks to last year, we need lots of snow this year as well.
And for the record, I'm happy about the snow, but for my own selfish personal reasons.
On Tuesday.
I'm a little bit bummed about Tuesday. My positive thing, I spoke about a lawsuit that was filed by an Aspen school district against some of the social media companies for the damage that they had done to their students. It was a novel concept. I think it sort of happened earlier this year, but our AG has now joined and is filing a lawsuit along with a number of other states, Maryland, Missouri, South Carolina, Minnesota, Florida, under many of the same legal theories. We're one step, I think, closer to holding these companies accountable in the way that they've needed to be for a long time.
I agree with Krista again on the snow. Snow is water. But what I picked this week was a 104-year-old Chicago woman who jumped out of a plane 13,500 feet in the air. Her name's Dorothy Hoffner. She is awaiting to see if she qualifies as the world record. It was previously held by a woman who was 103. And the favorite thing that she said is age is just a number. I love that.
All right, that's good. My pause of the week is not only the recognition of the life and impact of Steve Sander, who was such a beloved behind-the-scenes figure in Denver, but also at the state level, I want to recognize Sharon Eubanks, who is retiring as the Director of the Legislative Legal Services after 37 years in that office in the state capitol. Sharon has been one who has put the ideas on paper, worded the legislation, worked on drafts over and over. She worked on things like the Scientific and Cultural Facilities District, the legislation that created the Denver Metro Office of Major League Baseball Stadium, which created a team here. She worked a lot on Tabor when that was passed. So she's done a lot for our state and for all of us. So congratulations on a 39-year career. What is that, 37? 37, that's amazing. Thank you all for joining us this week. Thank you all for joining us on your TV, your device, or if you're listening to our podcast. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful week. Have a good Halloween, no matter what the weather. And I will see you next week here on PBS 12.